Whether we admit it or not, we live in the future that science fiction authors predicted. So far, it seems we've opted for the cyberpunk flavor. Thanks, I hate it. But whenever our sci-fi destiny comes up, the response is always the same. Where are the flying cars? Well, over the past 8 months, 4 different manufacturers have received special airworthiness certifications for their prototypes from the US's Federal Aviation Administration. So, let's find out if those cars may contain science. But first, what is a flying car? It seems like a silly question, like it's got to both drive and fly, hence flying car. But there have been dozens of designs and over 70 patents over the decades for various designs of flying car. And if all it had to do was drive on the ground and fly in the air, any airplane capable of taxiing down a runway would count. The first candidate for flying car is the Curtiss Autoplane, which debuted in 1917, which flew kind of like a flying squirrel flies. That is, we're good for some glide hopping, and that's it. And if this looks like an unholy grafting of airplane wings onto an automobile, get ready for the next 84 years of flying car design. When it comes to things that can be any kind of aircraft and also be some kind of car, we're looking at heavier than air crafts for the most part. Dirigibles, sadly, have not proven to be fantastic cars. Sorry, the Hindenburg. And from there, our flying cars can spec into being kind of like an airplane or kind of like a copter. Now, of course, there are other options, but no. Cute. Sure. Partial credit. Maybe. But no. No matter what, our flying car needs to balance the 4 forces of flight: lift, thrust, weight, and drag. Now, as we've seen, you absolutely could smack wings onto a car-shaped object. It isn't ideal, and that's mostly because of drag. An average airplane has 1/10 the drag coefficient of a sports car because while an aerodynamic car saves a little on fuel, an aerodynamic plane saves a lot on fuel and can, actually take off and fly. So, being car-shaped in at least some of the vehicle isn't exactly helping, but with a wide enough wingspan, a fixed-wing vehicle can, with the right design, still fly. Problem is, okay, I need you to picture that fixed-wing car grocery shopping. Yeah, picture backing out of the driveway, driving down the street, stopping at a stoplight, turning left, parking at the store. Yeah, I think we can all see why fixed-wing designs are not going to be the flying car solution. So, if you want to use wings to make your car fly, you can't have wings all of the time. That brings us to what I might call the Transformers solution. Most of the time, it's a car with no wings. When you need it to fly, it converts. And that is the case for at least one of our new candidate flying cars. Its wings and tail unfold to take the 3-wheeled vehicle from car to little mini plane. The Samson Switchblades design shown here is not a VTOL or vertical takeoff and landing vehicle any more than any other airplane. So, as you would expect, it needs a runway to take off, and that means the goal is to get this to drive it to an airstrip, turn it into a plane, fly it to another airstrip, drive away. It has FAA approval for experimental testing and has done something few of the others have. As of this past November, the Switchblade has taken off and flown around, all on its own. So we can see proof of that on video. So, does it drive? Yes. Does it fly? Yes. Could I realistically take this dang thing to the grocery store? Maybe. The Switchblade isn't the first Transformers-style car that achieves flight by cosplaying as a fixed-wing aircraft sometimes. Here's a design from Terrafugia from 2012 that meets all those same criteria, albeit perhaps with a little less aesthetic elegance. But more recently, we've also seen progressively more of those vertical takeoff and landing vehicles that cosplay as copters, and more specifically, electric VTOLs. In December of this past year, Doroni Airspace got FAA Special Airworthiness Certification to answer the question no one asked. What if we pointed a GROW ray at a GoPro drone, only instead of an action camera, it carried around a person? This Doroni H1 is a two-seater eVTOL that is as much hover car as flying car. And indeed, the piloted test flight it first completed in September last year is less ambitious than some of its fixed-wing counterparts. As we can kind of see, this flight test gives the eVTOL airtime performance comparable to piloted rotorcraft of the 1920s. But the difference between now and literally a century ago when we started prototyping these technologies is the substantial improvements to stability and maneuverability of multi-rotor craft that developed particularly through 2000s era R&D. And overall, eVTOLs, rather than airplane transformers, are progressively dominating what apparently really exists as the flying car/air taxi space. The AXA A5 received its FAA airworthiness cert back in July and performed a tethered hover test last fall. The Aleph Model A, meanwhile, billed itself as the first flying electric car approved by the FAA, and indeed, as its appearance at the Detroit Auto Show suggests, it does actually look like a car, even though it is technically in the golf cart category of low-speed vehicles driving under 25 miles an hour, or 40 kilometers per hour if you're a metric speed demon. Since we've learned that cars are really not shaped for flight, how does this one work? Well, the idea, at least, is that it avoids the car-shaped drag problem by putting the cockpit of the car on a gimbal so that it can turn on its side to make use of rotors in the hollow sieve body of the vehicle. Not looking forward into getting into a fender bender there. Enjoy this picture though, because while the Aleph Model A has allegedly demoed to its investors, the public has this picture. Maybe some animations. Not that that stops flying car enthusiasts who've thrown big pre-order money at the Aleph Model A and pretty much every other vehicle we've talked about today, with all the attendant pre-order risks, as any Kickstarter backer could tell you. Indeed, the space has been dominated by smaller companies like these and others like Archer, Joby, and Blade Air. Bigger manufacturers of cars, like Hyundai and Subaru, have only more recently begun to invest in the air taxi space and showcase designs. And as we see with this Hyundai prototype from this year's Consumer Electronics Showcase, the SA2, a follow-on of the original SA1 model, fits the flying part of an air taxi, but seems to have no interest in the car part. So, what's next in the centuries-long saga of the flying car? Well, that depends on what a flying car means to you. The important thing about a flying car is that it vroom and it zoom. Well, we're surprisingly far along into that quest with cars like a Switchblade. Whether driving to and from an airstrip feels like what using a flying car is, that's up to you. But as for vehicles like eVTOLs, those are getting significantly more attention for urban use. Some of those designs don't quite meet the strict definition of both vroom and zoom, but those air taxis are arguably more effective at fulfilling the spirit of a flying car if what you care about is developing on the idea of three-dimensional navigation from door to door in an urban environment. That said, they aren't fully cooked yet, and there are still engineering challenges with eVTOLs if we intend to make the flying car a part of life. For instance, NASA's Advanced Air Mobility Mission researchers are working to assess and reduce the impact of noise associated with eVTOLs. I mean, after all, think about how noisy helicopters are. Heck, think about that whining noise even little quadcopters bought off Amazon will make. Now, imagine how much noise a city full of them would make. Human noise pollution is disruptive not only to other species, but even to fellow humans. Indeed, researchers from Nagoya and Keio universities explored this in a paper a couple of years ago, using electroencephalography data to show that flying car noise caused stress, and that the stress didn't go away when the sound did. It's not enough to live in the future of flying cars. We have to make sure those flying cars contribute to a future we actually want to live in. In the meantime, I'm going to opt for cars that are designed to be the very best cars they can be, and aircraft that are the best possible aircraft. After learning about flying cars, I don't think I need something that's just okay-ish at being both. After all, parking in LA is hard enough. Maybe I don't need to try it with a 30-foot wingspan.